Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive that is all about journaling. We've got a ton of great material to go over. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things from like the history of journaling and the science behind it to like practical tips and personal stories. Even I was surprised by some of the stuff we found. But before we get too far, I want to introduce our expert who's here with us today to help us unpack all this info. So have you ever thought about how journaling actually changes your brain?
It's pretty wild when you stop and think about it. And it's not even a new thing. Like, people have been journaling for centuries. Ancient civilizations, Leonardo da Vinci, even Marcus Aurelius was writing things down way back when.
I mean, yeah, that's incredible to think about all those old journals, like a window into the
Yeah.
past. But what's interesting to me is how relevant journaling is today. With all the craziness of the digital world and all the stress we face, it's almost like journaling is this perfect antidote.
Oh, absolutely. And the science backs it up. There's this researcher, Dr. James Pennebaker from the University of Texas. And he's done all these studies on what he calls expressive writing, which is basically just, writing about your feelings and experiences. And he's found that just like 15 minutes of writing for a few days can really improve your mood and even boost your immune system.
That's so cool. Like, just writing can have that much of an impact. Oh, and you know what else is interesting? There was this study from UCLA that found journaling can actually lower your stress hormones, like cortisol.
It makes sense when you think about how journaling affects your brain. Like, when you write, especially about your emotions, you're activating the emotional processing centers in your brain. It's almost like a workout for your brain,
Mm.
helping it get better at dealing with those feelings.
Okay, that's a great way to think about it, like emotional fitness. And get this, neuroscientists have found that journaling can actually create new neural pathways in your brain. So you're literally rewiring your brain as you write.
It really shows you how adaptable the brain is, constantly changing based on what we do. And journaling is one way to like actively shape those changes.
It's amazing. So we're not just recording our thoughts, we're shaping how our brains work. And the best part is there are so many different types of journaling to try. It's not just one thing.
Definitely. There's something for everyone. Bullet journaling for people who love organization, art journaling if you're more visual, and even dream journaling to explore your subconscious.
So many possibilities. But I'm curious, based on the research, are some types of journaling more effective for certain things?
That's a great question. And yeah, some techniques have shown to be better for specific things, like expressive writing is really good for processing trauma and improving mental health, while gratitude journaling can increase happiness and reduce stress.
So it's all about finding the right style for you and what you want to achieve, which is a great reminder for everyone listening. But journaling isn't just about feeling better or being organized. It can actually help you grow as a person.
Absolutely. One way journaling helps with personal growth is through setting SMART goals.
SMART goals, you mean writing them down in your journal.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of just having vague ideas, you can use your journal to set goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So instead of saying, I want to be healthier, you could write, I will walk for 30 minutes 3 times a week for the next month. That way you have a clear plan.
That's such a smart idea. And writing them down makes them feel more real.
For sure. And on top of that, journaling can help you uncover your values and beliefs. Those things that are important to you, which is crucial for real personal growth.
So you can make decisions that are true to yourself.
Right. And live a more fulfilling life.
This is powerful stuff. Now, here's something that surprised me. Journaling can actually have a big impact on your relationships. I know it sounds weird because we think of journaling as a solo thing.
It is surprising. But it can really change how you connect with others.
So how does that work?
One way is by improving your communication skills. When you journal, you're practicing putting your thoughts and feelings into words. And that helps you communicate better with everyone.
So it's like a practice run for those important conversations.
Yeah. And another interesting thing is, journaling can help you see patterns in how you communicate. You might notice that you get defensive when someone gives you feedback, or that you avoid conflict. By writing about these things, you become more aware of them, and you can start to change those habits.
That's so valuable. It's like shining a light on your blind spots. Now, have you ever heard of joint journaling, where couples or families share a journal?
I have. It's a pretty interesting concept.
Have you come across any research on it?
There's not a ton of research yet,
Oh.
but early studies suggest it can help strengthen relationships, it can create a safe space for being vulnerable with each other, and help people understand each other's perspectives better.
That's amazing. Now, before we get too excited about all the benefits, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, those journaling barriers that we all face. Let's be real. Sometimes the hardest part is just getting started. staring at a blank
You're
page.
telling me overcoming that initial hurdle is the biggest challenge for a lot of people. Writer's block, not having anything to say, or just not having enough time.
Exactly. But luckily, our sources have some good tips for overcoming those barriers. So let's get into it. Starting with writer's block, what do we do when we're facing that blank page?
One simple trick is the timer trick. You set a timer for 5 minutes and just write whatever comes to mind, even if it's random thoughts or nonsense. The important thing is to get those words flowing.
I love that, the timer trick. I use that for all sorts of things. What about prompts? Have you found those helpful?
Prompts are great. They can spark your creativity. Our sources suggest trying prompts like, what am I grateful for today? Or what's one small step I can take towards my goals this week? You can even find tons of prompts online.
Okay, so we've got some ideas for dealing with writer's block. But let's be honest, time is a precious commodity for most of us. How do we actually make time for journaling when we're already so busy?
One strategy is to use those little pockets of downtime we have throughout the day. Instead of scrolling through social media while you're waiting in line, use that time to jot down a few thoughts. You can also make journaling part of your routine, like writing for a few minutes after you wake up or before bed. Even 5 or 10 minutes can make a difference.
That's a good point. It's about being intentional with the time we have. But, even with all the tips and tricks, there's one thing that I think really holds people back: self-criticism. We want every entry to be perfect.
Well, tell me about it. That inner critic can be so loud.
Exactly. Like, it has to be grammatically correct and profound and
Hey,
poetic.
but remember, your journal isn't a performance. It's a safe space for you to be yourself. Just let those words flow without overthinking it.
It's about the process, not the product.
Exactly, and no one else has to see it, so just be real and authentic.
Okay, that's a relief. No pressure to be perfect. Now, to bring all of this to life, I want to talk about some real stories that show the power of journaling. And one that really touched me was Emma's story. She used journaling to help her heal after a traumatic experience.
It's amazing how writing can help us through those tough times. It allows you to process your emotions and find strength.
And then there's Michael's story. He was feeling lost, and he started journaling to figure out what he wanted in life.
That's a great example of how journaling can help you connect with yourself and create a life that you love.
It's inspiring. And you know what else stood out to me? Our sources include interviews with mental health professionals who all talk about how beneficial journaling can be.
Yeah, it's not just personal stories. There's a lot of scientific evidence that supports journaling.
So we've got science and personal experience on our side. But before we dive deeper into this world of journaling, let's take a quick pause to let all this info sink in. We'll be right back with even more tips, techniques, and stories. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. It's amazing to think that something as simple as writing can really have such a big impact on our personal growth and well-being, like we were talking about before the break. Journaling can rewire our brains and even help us communicate better. But did you know that it can also help unleash your creative potential?
Really? I've always thought of myself as a creative person, but sometimes I feel like I get stuck. Can journaling actually help with that?
Absolutely. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And one technique that's really good for boosting creativity is called stream of consciousness writing. Have you ever tried that?
I've heard of it, but I
Yeah.
haven't actually done it. What's the idea behind it?
It's all about letting go of that inner critic and just letting your thoughts flow onto the page. You set a timer, like for 10 minutes, and you just write down whatever comes to mind. No censoring. Don't worry about grammar or punctuation or even making sense. Just keep writing.
That sounds so freeing, like a mental detox for your creativity.
I'm definitely going to try that.
Yeah.
I can see how that would help with those creative blocks we all get sometimes. Exactly. Speaking of blocks, have you ever used mind mapping?
Oh yeah, mind maps. I used to use those all the time in school to organize my thoughts for essays and stuff. I love how visual they are. It makes complex ideas so much easier to understand.
They're great, and you can totally incorporate them into your journaling. It's a good way to brainstorm ideas or solve problems, or even map out the steps to achieve a goal.
That's a great idea.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to dust off my colored pens and
Yeah.
give that a try. But even with all these cool techniques, sometimes the biggest obstacle is our own self-criticism. That voice that tells you you're not good enough or creative enough, or that your writing isn't good enough.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. That inner critic can be such a downer. It's easy to get caught up in wanting everything to be perfect. But here's the thing. Your journal isn't a test. It's your space to experiment and explore and be messy.
So it's okay to be imperfect.
Exactly. Embrace the messiness. Let those words flow. Remember, no one else is going to see it. It's your personal space.
That's a good reminder. Now, earlier we talked about how journaling can have a big impact on our relationships. Can we talk more about that?
Sure, one way journaling can help is by helping us understand our emotional triggers.
Oh, emotional triggers. Those things that can make us react in ways we don't want to, especially in our close relationships. How does journaling help with that?
Well, when you write about those moments when you feel triggered, you can start to see patterns and figure out why you react the way you do.
So it's like we become detectives of our own emotions.
Exactly. And once you understand your triggers, you can start to develop better ways of coping and communicate your needs more effectively. Imagine being able to say, hey, when you do this, it makes me feel this way because of that.
That's powerful. It's about taking responsibility for your own emotions instead of blaming others. So we've got journaling helping us communicate better and understand our triggers and even deepen our connections through joint journaling. That's pretty amazing for a simple notebook.
It really is. And don't forget about the creative side of it. It's not just about writing words, it's about expressing yourself however you want.
Yeah, and speaking of creative expression, I was really intrigued by this section on combining journaling with photography. That sounds so cool.
It is. It's like adding a visual element to your inner world. Imagine pasting a photo into your journal. That evokes a certain emotion, and then writing about how that image makes you feel.
That's such a powerful idea. I'm definitely going to try that. What about scrapbooking? I know it might seem old-fashioned, but it's actually a really cool form of creative journaling.
Absolutely. Scrapbooking is all about combining images and mementos with your written reflections. It's a great way to preserve memories and celebrate important moments, and even process difficult experiences.
And it's so tactile and visually appealing. It's like creating a physical representation of your memories.
And of course, we can't forget about the digital age. Digital journaling platforms have become super popular. They offer a whole new world of possibilities.
Okay, let's talk about digital journaling. What are some of the cool things you can do with those platforms?
Well, one of the biggest advantages is accessibility. You can journal anywhere, anytime using your phone or computer. No need to carry a notebook around. And many platforms let you customize things, like changing fonts, colors, and templates.
Oh, I love the customization part. It's like creating your own little digital world.
Yeah.
What about adding things like photos, videos, or audio recordings?
You can definitely do that. Lots of platforms let you integrate multimedia into your entries. It can really make your journaling more interactive and engaging.
That's amazing. But I know some people might be worried about privacy when it comes to digital journaling.
I understand that. It's important to choose a platform that takes privacy seriously. Most of the reputable ones offer things like password protection and data encryption, so your entries are kept safe and confidential.
That's good to know. So we have all these great tools and techniques, but sometimes the hardest part is just knowing where to begin.
You're right, it can be overwhelming, especially if you're new to journaling. But remember, there's no right way to do it. It's about finding what works best for you.
So how do we find our journaling sweet spot? What are some tips for getting started and actually sticking with it?
Well, one important thing is to choose the right journal and writing tools. And don't feel limited to a traditional notebook. There are so many options out there.
It's true. Blank journals, line journals, bullet journals, art journals, gratitude journals. The list goes on and on.
Exactly. The key is to find a journal that you connect with and that makes you want to write. And don't be afraid to try different styles and formats.
And what about the actual pens and pencils?
It really depends on what you like, but a lot of people prefer a pen that writes smoothly. Some like gel pens, others like fountain pens, some even prefer a good old pencil. The important thing is to find something that feels comfortable and enjoyable to use. And don't be afraid to get creative with colored pens, highlighters, stickers, or washi tape.
Ooh, I love adding a little bit of visual flair to my journal.
Exactly. Make it fun and personal. And another tip is to create a comfortable and inspiring writing space.
Oh yeah, set the mood, tune your journaling space into a little sanctuary.
Exactly. Find a quiet spot where you can minimize distractions. Maybe it's a cozy corner in your bedroom, or a sunny spot in your garden, or even your favorite coffee shop. The key is to create an environment that makes you feel like writing.
I love it. I can already feel the creative juices flowing. But let's be real, even with the perfect journal and the most inspiring space, sometimes the biggest challenge is just finding the time to journal regularly.
That's true. We're all busy. But the good news is journaling doesn't have to take a lot of time. Even just 5 or 10 minutes a day can have a big impact.
So it's about quality over quantity, those small, consistent efforts.
Exactly. It's like a mental workout. You wouldn't expect to see results from the gym if you only went once a month. The same goes for journaling. Consistency is key.
That's a great analogy. So how do we make journaling a regular habit?
One strategy is to set a specific time each day. like first thing in the morning or right before bed. You can also set reminders on your phone or use a habit tracker. Experiment with different times to see what works best for you.
Okay, so find that sweet spot in your schedule and make it a non-negotiable part of your day. But what about those days when things get crazy and you just can't fit it in?
It's okay to miss a day here and there. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just get back to it when you can. The important thing is to not let one missed session derail your whole practice.
That's great advice. Self-compassion is key. Now, to really highlight the transformative power of journaling, let's revisit those real-life examples we talked about earlier. Emma's story of healing and Michael's journey of self-discovery.
They're such inspiring stories. They remind us that journaling is a real tool that can make a real difference in people's lives.
Exactly. Emma's story shows how journaling can help us heal and become more resilient.
It's amazing how writing can help us work through those difficult times and find strength in our vulnerability.
And Michael's story shows how journaling can help us discover who we are and create a life that we truly love.
It's like journaling gave him the courage to go after his dreams.
That's so inspiring.
And you know what's even more amazing? There's a growing body of scientific research that supports the use of journaling as a therapeutic tool. Like, our sources included interviews with mental health professionals who talked about how much they recommend journaling to their clients.
So we've got real-life stories and scientific evidence. That's pretty convincing. But it's important to remember that journaling isn't a magic solution. It's not going to solve all our problems overnight.
You're right, it's a tool. And like any tool, it works best when you use it consistently and with intention.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about progress. It's about showing up for ourselves.
Exactly. And remember, there will be days when you don't feel like journaling. And that's okay. Give yourself permission to take a break, but try to come back to it when you can. The key is to create a journaling practice that is compassionate and sustainable.
I love that. Compassionate and sustainable. That's what it's all about. Now, I know we've covered a lot, but I want to make sure we explore some of the more unique and lesser-known aspects of journaling.
Sounds good. Let's dive into some more journaling techniques.
Perfect. I'm ready. Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about those amazing personal stories. You know, the ones that show how journaling can help you heal and find yourself. But did you know that journaling can also make you happier in your everyday life?
Oh, for sure. One of the best examples of this is gratitude journaling. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's so powerful, it deserves more attention. It's all about shifting your perspective from what you don't have to what you do have.
I love that, focusing on the positive. So how does gratitude journaling actually work?
It's pretty simple, really. You just spend a few minutes each day writing down things you're grateful for. They can be big things or small things, like a good cup of coffee, a beautiful sunset, a kind act from a stranger, or the love and support of your family and friends.
So it's about noticing those little things that we often take for granted.
Exactly. And by doing that, by focusing on the good stuff, you're actually training your brain to be more appreciative and less focused on what's missing.
I like that, rewiring your brain for happiness. Are there any studies that back this up?
Definitely, research has shown that people who practice gratitude regularly are happier, they sleep better, they're less stressed, and they even have stronger immune systems.
Wow, that's amazing. Sign me up. But, for some people, journaling can feel a bit intimidating or overwhelming. Like, where do you even start?
You're right, it can be a bit daunting, but remember, there's no one right way to journal. The key is to find what feels right for you and what you enjoy, and one way to do that is to try different things. Experiment a bit.
Okay, so let's get adventurous. What are some unique journaling techniques that people might not know about?
Well, one technique that I find really interesting is called unsent letters. It's basically writing a letter to someone. It could be a loved one, a friend, a difficult coworker, or even yourself. And in this letter, you express all the things you've always wanted to say but haven't.
Unsent letters? That sounds really cathartic, like a way to release all those pent-up emotions without actually having to confront the person.
Exactly, and you don't even have to send the letter. The power is in the writing itself.
I can see how that would be really helpful. What other journaling gems do you have for us?
Another technique I love is called future self-journaling. It's about imagining your ideal future and then writing as if you're already living it. It's a powerful way to make your dreams feel more real and create a plan to achieve them.
Future self-journaling, that sounds awesome, like writing your own success story. So how do you do it?
Choose a time frame, like 5 years, 10 years, or even further into the future. Close your eyes and really picture your perfect life. What are you doing? Where are you living? Who are you with? What makes you happy once you have that clear image? Start writing as if it's already happening. Use the present tense, be specific, and don't be afraid to dream big.
That's so cool. It's like stepping into your best self. I'm totally trying that. Any other mind-blowing techniques you want to share?
One more that I think is really insightful is called dialogue journaling. It's about having a written conversation with different parts of yourself. Like you could have a dialogue between your inner critic and your inner cheerleader, or between your logical side and your emotional side.
Dialogue journaling, that sounds fascinating, like getting to know all the different sides of yourself and finding a balance.
Exactly. It's a great way to understand yourself better and work through any inner conflicts you might have.
I'm loving all these creative techniques. This is so inspiring for anyone listening who's ready to start their own journaling journey.
Yeah.
What are some resources they should check out, like books, online communities, or digital tools?
One of my favorite books on journaling is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It's a classic. It's full of practical exercises and prompts that can help you unlock your creativity, even if you don't think of yourself as an artist.
Oh, yeah. The Artist's Way is fantastic. It's like a must-read for anyone who wants to live a more creative life. What about online communities? Are there any good ones for journaling enthusiasts?
Absolutely. There are tons of online communities dedicated to journaling. A good place to start is the Reddit journaling community. It's really active and supportive. People share their experiences, tips, and prompts. You can also find lots of Facebook groups for specific types of journaling, like bullet journaling, gratitude journaling, and art journaling.
Wow, so many places to connect with other people and get inspired.
Mm.
What about digital tools? We talked about digital journaling platforms earlier. Are there any apps that you particularly like?
One of my favorites is Day One. It's beautifully designed and really easy to use. You can add photos, audio recordings, and even location data to your entries. Another popular option is Journey. It's known for being very versatile and it works across different devices.
So many amazing resources. It sounds like the world of journaling is wide open.
It really is, and the best part is you get to choose what works best for you and how you want to incorporate it into your life.
Well, everyone, we've come to the end of our deep dive into journaling. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling super inspired and ready to start writing. I think we've covered a lot today, from the history and science of journaling to different techniques, inspiring stories, and even some great resources to get you started.
The main thing to remember is that journaling is a powerful tool for self-discovery growth, and healing it helps you connect with yourself, process your experiences, and create a life that is true to who you are.
So well said. And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one last thought to ponder. If you could go back and read your younger self's journal, what advice would you give them, knowing what you know now? Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of journaling. Until next time, keep writing and keep exploring